Community Conversations is a space that fosters conversation around topics important to us, with the purpose of creating an educational opportunity to teach, learn, work, and grow together. With your host, Ina.
Hi, and welcome to yet another week and another Community Conversations, where the four of us, and hopefully someday soon more, we talk about topics important to us and our SBNH community and the disability community at large. So last few episodes we have touched on ableism and owning our story, and last one we touched on media's role, right? And all this kind of touches on what we thought we would talk about today, which is the power of words and what power words have. Yes. Before we dive in, I just want to remind everyone, if you haven't, please subscribe so you won't miss any future episodes. And if you haven't checked out our previous episodes, please do. Yes. So my first question was, or is, what impact can words have on fighting or feeding ableism? Big question.
Just right into the deep end. Into the deep end.
Just diving in.
Yeah. You wanna start, Danny?
Ooh. Words are so interesting because words are rooted in where we've come from and language, as language has continued to as it started and as it's continued to evolve. And I think it's so interesting because I think there are just so many words that we have been used for great reasons, for empowering, inspiring, helping, that are like motivators, that are like great words, and then historically there are words that have been used with like massive negative connotation around them. And it's really interesting, I know, within the English language, to hear words still today used. And I will say I hear it less and less in terms of the word that I think about, but I still hear it. And it's a word that gets me every time, and I don't say it ever, and I'm going to say it, but it pains me to say it. It's the word retarded.
Mm-hmm.
And so often when I hear the word retarded used, it's in a grammatical way that is so wrong. So firstly, for an example, oh man, my night last night was so retarded. And in the back of my brain, I think grammatically that makes no sense whatsoever. if we actually talk about the definition of that word, it makes no sense whatsoever. So why, like, there's so many words in the English language.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that a descriptor for what the evening looked like? So that always gets me. And also knowing, kind of two-pronged to that, is it's also a word that, as we know, for our community of SBNH or disability at large, it's a word that has and still is today sometimes used as an oppressive word that somebody within our community hears, and it's a hurtful word because it certainly doesn't lift anybody up or doesn't empower anybody, but the connotation around it is hurtful still to our community. On the flip side of that, I think it's interesting because folks within our community, and I think this is something that's becoming more understood, but I know I really loved hearing about this idea of reclamation, like, say, our community regaining power over those words. So I know somebody once upon a time asked me, well, why is it okay if, somebody who doesn't say identify within the community of disability says that word and it's a big deal or something, but then somebody within the community says it and it's like no big deal. And I think it's interesting because that could be debated, of course, but I think it's so interesting in that for somebody who identifies with a disability, they also potentially identify with the hurt that has historically come with that word being used. So for somebody who lives with a disability to say the word retarded or use the word retarded towards themselves or just in general or whatever, it's almost this idea of like this word has oppressed our disability community from the beginning of time and the way it's been used and thrown around. And I'm saying it now to reclaim my own power as a person who lives with a disability. So I think it's interesting, and there's still so much learning, I think, to do. But that word for me is one that I still to this day hear and I go, oh, it's either A, used in a completely wrong context, or B, there are so many words in the English language. You can't find one that like fits through the context of 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that word is so dated.
Yeah. Also, I mean, if you want to describe something as in a negative context, I mean all words if it's used in the same context over and over, it has it finally gets this loadedness or like meaning, and if you really think about it, using retarded in that context, I mean the person saying that obviously doesn't think of it in a positive context. Which goes,
yeah,
and it reminds me of when I worked in kindergarten with both both small kids and older, and I heard more than once the kids say, "Oh, you're such a CP,"
Mm.
and 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 me going, "But wait, do you really know what that word is? And do you really know that word is actually disability, and it means this and this."
Mm.
And seeing the kids go, "Oh," because they have just heard their friends going, "Oh, CP, that, blah 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 blah," and not even knowing the context behind it.
Yeah.
So I was really like, I really saw it as my responsibility to enlighten those kids. And,
That's incredible.
And they never used it again. So,
as far as you know.
Whenever.
I think it's interesting because if it's a group, so say it's a group, you can bet that at least one of those kids will never, with that context, will never use it again. Because you can bet that even if it's just one, and I don't know, it's the way I approach a concert. If a song reaches one person, I'm happy. If it reaches the masses, that's incredible. But if it reaches that one person and like makes one person's day, that was a good day. That was a good gig. If that one conversation changes one person's, educates one person's, then job well done.
Yeah, and at least they now know what that word means. So the next time they use it, or they hear a friend use it, they know that it's not just a word used to say, "Oh, you're such a stupid." Well, say you think your friend is stupid, then.
Yeah.
Because CP doesn't mean stupid.
No.
Usually far from stupid or retarded.
Yeah.
I don't see it as a fun night out.
No.
Sounds really boring and slow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just if you understand the context and it makes no sense. So it's like, why are we saying that? And it's because we're, in a word like that, I want to believe it's because linguistically we're wired with we sometimes people just say those things. Okay, sweet. Well, now we know better. Now we know that like the way we talk historically isn't always the best way we could speak. So, how do we fix that? We have to rewire ourselves. We have to, learn new words, pick up a book and like expand our vocabulary.
Yeah.
And so, it's so interesting. Anyways.
And maybe not get so defensive when we get confronted with these things.
Yeah.
And sit and
Yeah.
just think about it, have a discussion about it, be open-minded. It's not that hard if you actually want to
Yeah.
learn something.
Yeah. I mean, sorry, Lexi, go for it.
I'm just saying, you just need to like educate people on how words can hurt, right?
Yeah.
And it makes you feel kind of, well, for me, it makes me feel like I'm less than.
Yeah.
And I'm not less than.
Yeah.
But if you go and educate them instead of just going at them, they'll think about it more.
And I think it's interesting because a lot of these, like, of course, you've got some of these big words that are like big no-nos, or they should be at least. But then I think it's interesting because there are, there's words that certainly have subtleties around them that aren't necessarily on the surface like super, super hurtful, but like they're definitely not very upbeat words. And they're definitely not, they're just not upbeat. They're not very positive. And so they wouldn't necessarily feed into a good narrative. They would certainly work against, say, creating more inclusive world, because I think the language we use plays a huge role in breaking down ableism, creating more inclusion, creating more accessibility. The way we speak and frame things, or framing matters, and context matters, and all that stuff matters. Yeah.
Yeah. I came to think of something else. I know me and Viva has talked about it in the past, like the in some way how words have changed, but it still has the same meaning.
Yes.
Like the use of handicapped,
Right.
and how it's in the Swedish words, it has gone from that to I don't even know how to word it in English. Can you do you know what I mean, Eva?
Yeah, I do. I'm just trying to gather my thoughts.
Yes.
Again. No, it's gone. Sorry.
Yeah, but to make it a bit more clear, I mean, if you or the authorities, which in this case, I mean, first they used handicap, and now disability or disabled, but if you or the authority that us as a community draws help from still has the minds of what that word means. I mean, it sounds better and more refined or whatever, but it's still it's still talking about a person that is in need of assistance
Yeah.
in the community. So it doesn't really sometimes matter what words you use.
Yeah.
Of course, it matters, but if it has the same roots, then it's just a more fancier word.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I remember that or the discussions about what to call people with disability isn't done. So it seems, at least here in Sweden. First, as Ina said, it was handicapped. Before that, there were a lot of other words that were worse.
Really?
Yeah. Now it's disabled, differently able. Has anyone heard that?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
That drives me insane.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really matter what you call it.
Yeah.
What actions are taken behind that?
Yeah.
Are we just naming things because it makes us feel better and nothing changes? Yeah, sure, call me disabled, but does that make all the ramps appear all of a sudden? That I actually need to be more functional?
Right.
Yeah.
So the word doesn't change anyone's situation.
Right.
Really.
Right.
In the end.
Yeah.
Thank you for making my rabble more clear.
Did I do it?
You did it! Ina, you were great too, though.
Yeah.
You were great too.
Well,
You were great too.
Because for a very long time, sorry.
No, cool. It's all you.
Continue.
For a very long time, it has. I go to a lot of meetings where we discuss disability politics and a lot of things that had to do with accessibility and education and healthcare. And a lot of times we end up having an agenda for a day or for a couple of hours, and it always ends up with word shitting. We just talk about words and not the actions that we actually need to take to make things better in the long term.
Yeah.
So we can sit there and talk about words all day, but what difference does it make?
Yeah.
Mm.
What changes are you making? I got really pissed off last time, so I left, and I was called rude.
Really?
Yes, I
Wow.
was rude.
Wow.
Yes.
Why?
Yeah.
Because I left the meeting, and it was an important one. But how important was it, really, when we
Yeah.
were talking about healthcare and you got caught up on a word
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you, person A and person B, there were two people arguing about
Mm.
one word.
So hold on. Can I get more context to that? What do you mean they were arguing about a word?
It was actually about the word disabled.
Okay. Okay.
And we were talking about accessibility.
Right. And so they were debating the language being used.
Yeah.
Okay. Which is so interesting, because I think that it'd be kind of similar, like granted, if I just openly and always use the word retarded, I would hope that all of you would say, Danny, that's not okay, man. We love you. That's not okay. And if I didn't stop, or I didn't like adjust, I didn't speak better, and not use that word anymore, that I would be to blame. And absolutely, for sure, I absolutely should be condemned for that. But I think it's interesting because in this conversation, certainly there are areas that we full-heartedly agree on topics, and then there are other areas where it may be like, well, I get where you're coming from, Danny, but like I don't necessarily full-heartedly agree with that. But we can all agree on the fact that like words have power, period. Accessibility is an issue, period. Those things are what we're rooted in. So why are we going to argue over things that are on the surface or debate? Like we're talking about accessibility right now. Who cares? Like, why are we debating this stupid little thing for 20 minutes? Do we have the same passion? Yes. Do we care about accessibility? Sweet. Let's move forward.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
that was exactly my point.
Yeah.
Which I tried to make in an email. I was sent an email where the person emailing me wasn't happy with me because I left. And I tried to explain, like, I'm not here for a lecture and language.
Yeah.
I'm here to actually try and make things better for people that can't get into buildings.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in rhetorics in this case.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are we doing to make it better for people that can't get into buildings?
Yeah.
That is what I'm interested in, nothing else.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a shame when that kind of trivial stuff, especially in that kind of scenario, becomes like the things that people are focused on. That's super.
It's easier. It's easier to just word vomit.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's so interesting, because what I'm hearing anyways from you, Diva, is yes, of course, we're talking today about the power of words, and they're important, but like action is always at the forefront. Like what are we doing? And certainly, we as humans can take actionable items on the language we use. I've certainly learned about like different language that I've used nonchalantly that I'm like, I never thought about that before, or that before, or that. Okay. And that's so something as simple as when I walk into a room full of young people, I walked into this room full of young people one day. A lot of these kids were from really hard upbringings, a lot from broken homes, a lot of different stories, and it was a program called Power to Change. These kids were associated with something here in Canada known as Children's Aid Society. So a lot of young people from broken homes, and I walk into this room, bubbly me, and I'm like, "Hey friends, what's going on?" This young girl was just like, "I'm not your fucking friend."
Really? Yeah.
And I took a moment and I was like, "Yo, you're so right. I'm so sorry. We actually just met. We're not friends. You're absolutely right. I'm so sorry. Let's start again. Can we start again?" And her and I became friends after that. But I could have easily been like, "Yo, what the heck?" And that would have been totally ineffective. Totally ineffective. What? Sorry? Yeah, like, I'm just trying to be your friend. What the heck? That young person would have gone, "Okay, here's the wall. Peace. Bye.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Bye, Felicia.
F you. I'm done. I'm done." Because she was not wrong. She was not wrong. We aren't friends. She doesn't know me. We're not friends. Who is this dude?
Yeah.
So she wasn't wrong. And again, in that moment, my first was like deer in headlights, like, whoa.
Yeah.
But you're not wrong. Okay, that's interesting. We're not friends. I shouldn't. Again, it's so simple, but it's so interesting. So I mean, still today, I'll say, "Hey, friends." I'll be a little bit more, if I'm with friends, I'll use it. But I'll play around personally with my language as well.
Yeah.
I'll try not to say "hey guys" all the time. Just like super little things like that like I find catching on myself. And of course there's some people that might go like, "Oh, like, what the heck? Why do we have to do this or that?" Or I think it's kind of fun, quite honestly. It's just me. Language is so fun. It can be. Anyways, playing around with how you say things and how you say things differently. And especially when you learn about different words, that it's like, oh, maybe that word does affect somebody else differently. So maybe it's on me a little bit as well to like speak better.
Yeah.
Anyways, so interesting.
Yeah. And a question I think it's very, very interesting to hear your thoughts on is how do words shape societal norms. I mean, we have kind of touched on that, but it would be interesting to see and hear your view.
I think like it's changed, right? So for me, it's almost like giving the disability community power or a voice. Do you know what I mean? Like before, they would just talk about us. Now they talk to us, if that makes sense. So it's almost like we matter and we have a voice. Back to kind of like thinking about different things. Like I was in a meeting and I didn't agree with something, but I just clammed up. And then my boss after was like, "I was waiting for you to say something." But it's like, I didn't know what to say or how to say it because I was just so shocked at what was said. And I didn't know it was my place to say, "That's not right." You know what I mean? So, and this was quite a few years ago. So there again, I didn't think I could use my voice. Now it'd be like, wait a minute, totally not cool.
Mm.
So I think as time goes, we get more power and we have more of a voice.
If I could chime in on that, because Alex, you just made me think of this, and I think it's interesting because I think language, especially when it comes to like team building and like growing stronger as a team, if let's just say any one of us brought, I'll just say I brought any one of us, or I brought in somebody who doesn't identify with spina bifida and or hydrocephalus, brought in somebody and they start throwing around language that is not appropriate. We all know that, but this human that maybe doesn't even identify with a disability has no real context, no real understanding. Right away, if I don't, as say that person's friend or Lexi or Diva or Ina, like if it's any of our friends, and they're throwing it around, if like we don't approach them and say like, hey, this and that, and this is why, if we don't address that, that can seriously affect the culture of our team. Seriously affect the culture of our team, because let's just say it's my friend and like that person drops the R word every other word, and like that's not that. I know it's not okay. We all know it's not okay. We know it's taking away from the integrity of the work that we're trying to do, and A Song of City, SB&H, Disability Large period. If I, as that person's friend, am not breaking that down, then I would imagine that's going to hurt our team. That's going to hurt our integrity. That's going to hurt our relationships. And that's going to hurt ultimately the work that we're trying to do, because we're not caring to address those little things. And then I think it's interesting because, like, again, say we're building a team and there's somebody that doesn't identify with a disability, and they start throwing around this language, and it's like, oh, didn't anticipate that, didn't see that coming, didn't expect that. And we have that conversation, and that person's like, well, I don't, sorry, but I don't really care. Like, I mean, I am who I am. At that point, it's like, listen, you're a nice person. I like you, but maybe you're just not a culture fit here, because that's not okay here. And that's not okay in the world, period. And you might have done that thing for me last week, and that was really nice of you. So it's interconnected, because on one hand, you're not a terrible person, you're a nice person, but like, you're not taking these personal experiences and this knowledge, lived experience that all of us have within a community, you're not taking that very respectfully whatsoever. So, with all due respect, I don't think this is going to work out, kind of thing.
And I think that's where I kind of had to put myself in check, because like in this situation, I would be like, no, like this is not cool.
Yeah.
But in like a work situation, like I felt intimidated, not intimidated, but I felt like I shouldn't say anything.
Yeah.
And then I was mad at myself after for not saying anything. Because like in certain situations, I'd be like, no. But then in other ones, like...
It's so interesting, though, because I almost think it was on your boss as well. Like, it's on your boss to kind of step in and like, have your back to especially if you are an employee. You're an employee, so you sometimes don't know what that fine line is. Like, can I address that? Can't I? Like, I don't know. I'm just trying to keep my job. So interesting.
And at the same time, I was, while you were talking, Danny, I was thinking about a situation that I was in. One of my oldest friends went with me. This was a very long time ago, went with me to an event within the disability community, and this person doesn't have a disability. And she was yelled at because she was joking with me,
Right.
for using language that wasn't appropriate.
Yeah.
And everyone can lose their temper. It's human.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like, and I see that a lot, that instead of calmly asking, what do you mean?
Yeah.
And being open to that conversation, there's a huge tendency to just attack people.
Pounce. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I liked these people that I went to see, but this is my friend.
Yeah.
You're yelling at my friend. I'm not saying that you're wrong or you're right, but you're actually attacking this person that you've met. That is the first time you meet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're shooting ourselves in the foot.
Yeah.
At the same time as we want to be included. And we, by excluding people that we claim exclude us.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So what is it going to be?
Yeah. Yeah.
You can have both. You can't just say that these people exclude us.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what, Diva? I personally think that between the commonality between that story and the example that I gave, the commonality is two-way conversation, a two-way communication. And if there isn't a two-way communication happening calmly, as you said, calmly, then that's where the issue starts to lie. It's like, we can't just attack each other. We can't, if we try and have a calm conversation and then that other person just doesn't care, then that's another conversation completely. Then okay, cool, whatever. Go be mean, whatever.
Because honestly, if I have to choose between someone I just met or someone that I've known for a couple of months, weeks, and a person that I've known for like 20 years, of course I'm going to choose them. Person that I've known for 20 years. If they don't do something illegal and saying words, most of the words isn't illegal.
No, because for all of us, the same word could quite possibly have 4 different meanings. And of course I can get offended, but I can then hopefully say like, hey, this is what that word means to me. So with that in mind, could we have a conversation about it? If it's possible, or just come to a conclusion that we use different words, but it's the root of what we actually mean, and what the feeling behind it. I mean, if we mean well, then one specific word might not take up that amount of space.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a very, very, very sometimes hard thing to grasp, and of course, it depends on the situation and
Yeah.
and how
Yeah.
you feel that day.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
And
tone of your voice.
Yeah.
Body language.
Yeah. Yeah. All of
Temperature
it.
in the
Yeah.
room.
Yeah. 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 Read the room. Read
Yeah.
the room. Read the room. Oh.
I think we
Next question.
we could easily talk for hours.
Yeah.
I think we need to, for today, wrap things up. And let me close by saying we of course would love to hear from you, and we would, I think, love to have more people joining our conversation,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
the four of us know each other and know the way we think, and it would be interesting to get another person's perspective.
Heck yeah.
This
Heck yeah.
let yourself be known in the comments below. Subscribe. And let's join together next time. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.